We're going to have our formal moment here now. So if I can have your attention. I want to thank you for being here tonight on behalf of the Jesuit Dallas Museum. Welcome you here. Hope you feel at home. We have an excellent presentation. I mean, you see Bob's work here, and it's just absolutely incredible. Of course, we say that the class of 1971, where Bob is from, is the best class ever, but you can use your own year forever that. I do want to highlight one thing, though, as we get started tonight. And I want to quote Bob, and I think it's really important to do that because I'll make the connection. Bob says, whatever you do, that which makes you feel most alive, that is where God is. And I like to think that that also really goes very well with the whole idea of finding God in all things, one of our Jesuit Ignatian principles. Finding God in all things, and certainly I think in terms of Bob's work, we can certainly find God in that. So Bob, really thank you. Obviously his Jesuit education really paid off for him, so I'm really proud of that. So, well, it's my pleasure tonight to introduce Elizabeth Hunt Blanc, our museum director, who does a wonderful job with these receptions and these showings, and I just want to thank her for all the work that she does. But I'm going to turn it over to her, and we'll get a little bit more details on our artist tonight.
Hello, welcome everyone. I also want to, I don't know if I'm too loud, I want to thank all of our board members. If anyone wants to say hello here, we've got different board our docents, board members, we have a lot of wonderful supporters. Linda Soich is always helping with everything, so I just want to thank her. And then also, it was pretty amazing to work with Cheryl and Kevin Vogel. And so Cheryl's going to speak from Valley House Gallery with Bob's work, but also they installed the show. Ben Bascom came and installed the show, Mary Baker, Laura Green. So it took a lot of people to get this together. So again, I want to thank all of you. Bob, we're just so excited. One thing that's pretty exciting too is that you did study with Perry Nichols and one of the famous Dallas Nine. And so you can see all the realism and all of the different influences. He's had so many different travels, different studies, different things. But I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl, who's going to tell you a little bit, and then we're going to have Bob speak to everybody.
Well, Elizabeth, it is so important for an institution to honor their own. And we're so delighted to have a selection of Bob's work here tonight. I just looked up Bob. We've been working together for 30 years.
Wow.
And I have a catalog that's in process. It'll probably end up being about 90 pages. Bob keeps telling me I'm printing a new phone book. but it's a very wonderful relationship when you work with an artist for so many years. And Bob's work did not look like this when we first took him on. It was much more abstract. There's Sally King, one of your big fans. But it's very exciting to see where he is now and to think about the fact that Bob did not go to art school. Bob has taught himself along the way with a lot of help from things he's looked at, people he's known. But this is wonderful that you've put this together, and I hope that Bob will have a chance to talk to a lot of the students too. He has a lot to say. He's had quite a path in his life to get where he's gotten. This is somebody who's very thoughtful and psychological about why he chooses to say what he does. And I want you all to wave your hand, Wanda. Wanda is Bob's wife and muse, and she deserves a lot of credit for the life they have together. And Bob, I'm not going to waste anybody's time. You need to be the one talking up here.
I would much rather you talk than me.
You're the one who want to hear.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Cheryl and Elizabeth Hunt Blanc and Laura Green, especially for putting all this together. And Cheryl, over the years, Cheryl and Kevin have become family, really. And they're just such loving, trustworthy, confident people. And I say that even when they're not around. So. Let's see. What I wanted to talk about really was the quote that Mike made about the thing that that you, how's that go?
Here it is. No, I was
that was
gonna read it.
Saint Ignatius.
Yes, whatever you do.
Yeah, whatever you do with that which makes you feel most alive, that is where God is. And when I was here at Jesuit, I was probably the last person that they would expect something like that to come out of at any point in my life. I was constantly in trouble for this and that. I was not a good student. And in fact, Father Leininger, I believe he was the president then, or anyway, he was the guy that they sent you to when you got in trouble. And he was this big, tall, austere-looking guy with a cassock and very serious. And I would go into his office and he would spend about 5 minutes reprimanding me for whatever I'd done and telling me what I should do instead. And then we'd spend 45 minutes talking about art because he was an artist as well. So it was really, really a nice experience. And the fact that the kids here have art as a part of their lives is so beautiful to me. It's so important because I know that in my own life, we have 35 or more other artists that we've collected over the years, and we are definitely not wealthy people, but we have art in our lives. And I've noticed that when a painting leaves, if we have to take one off the wall for some reason or another, it's all of a sudden I'm in a slum instead of a beautiful home. And for the kids to have this kind of environment with the art around them all the time, it's a subtle subliminal thing, I suppose, but it's going to change their lives. It's going to affect them, and it's going to deepen them as people. Because art essentially is in my opinion, a spiritual activity. It's something. My own personal definition of art is it's consciousness in recognition of itself through particular activities. So, the art of dance, the art of music, the art of business, even whatever. It's a way of really being aware, really being conscious, really being alive. And I think that's what St. Ignatius was talking about when he said whatever it is that makes you feel most alive, that's where God is. And there isn't anywhere where God isn't, of course, but the awareness of that reality and that way of looking at things it seems to be elusive. And art is a way of teaching without words and making us aware of someone else's vision of life and sharing that someone else's way of seeing. And for me, I hope that my whole life, I told my sons are musicians, my daughters are teachers and writers, and what I used to tell them was, particularly the musicians, I said, you do your art, your music, not only with your instrument, not only even with your body, but with your whole life. So that everything that I've done in my life, except for some of the really stupid things, and even that maybe, but has been directed toward making my life and work a thing of one piece, a thing of harmony that is and expresses that awareness that St. Ignatius was talking about. And all of these, a lot of what I do is about nature and some of the things, especially out in the front, I did recently at our little lake. And I go out there with my dog and pack my paints and just paint. And it's it requires, if anybody here is an artist, I know Sherry is, of course, but anybody who's tried to paint outside particularly, it's an incredibly engaging experience. It doesn't leave room for anything else. And I think that's part of what appeals to me so much about it, is that I'll be sitting out there and I have to let go of everything. I have to be in that moment, in that experience of consciousness, being aware of itself, and just do it, and then follow that experience through until there's sort of a conclusion and I'm done. And it's every time I do that, I start and think that there's no way that this is going to work. And I know so many times in life I've been in situations like that as well, where, like talking to a crowd, there's no way this is going to work out. You don't know what you're doing. You're an idiot. Whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then you just go ahead and do it anyways. You dive into the swimming pool even though it's cold. And once you start swimming, I know when I was a kid, I would come up to the pool and I think, yeah, the water's cold. and you touch it, and yeah, it's cold, but then you jump in and you start playing and splashing and everything. You forget about all the discomfort, and you're just having a good time. And that is, to me, a lot of the experience of painting and making art is that beautiful experience of just being here, being awake. And it's such a beautifully human thing to do. It's a place where perfection tries to express itself through imperfection. You know, where the beautiful, amazing resonance of being out in the wilderness at Big Bend or wherever, it's ecstatic. It's just unbelievable. And to take that and then to have a little piece of canvas or a board or something, and to condense that experience or to somehow express that experience in that little square and through this personality that I am it's ridiculous, but it's such a beautifully ridiculous thing to do. And let's see, I wanted to talk about the Jesuits and what I came away from this experience with. And honestly, I don't really remember much about my what I learned as far as information. Although I do remember Bob Lanier showing us how air pressure made a balloon expand. He unfortunately used a long, skinny one, but other than that, it was in a science class. But what I learned from them was that spiritual truth is more important than physical truth. That internal life is more important than the external life. So that the Jesuits say that they're contemplatives in action. I think they still say that probably, right? And they're not active people who contemplate. They're contemplatives in action. And to me, that's an ideal as well for an artist, is that I am a contemplative. I spend several hours a day in meditation. That's part of what I do, partly to help me maintain my sanity and because I've had issues that I've had to deal with, but basically because that's my principle of life, is that if I take care of the internal stuff first, everything else will work out the way that it should, or as well as it can. And that's what I learned from the Jesuits. I watched them model that behavior as men. And I think that's a really amazing, beautiful example that they're giving to the young people here and to anybody else who happens to be around them. In fact, I even thought I wanted to be a Jesuit for a while. That was pretty funny. And I remember the first time I approached, it was probably maybe Father Skiro, with that thought. He looked at me like I was growing bananas out of my ears. You? Say what? But that obviously didn't work out. I've got 4 wonderful kids and a beautiful wife, so it's all good. And are there any artists in here other than Sherry that, of course, I know? And the people that paint. Lots of folks.
One of our teachers right
Oh,
over there.
Howard?
Very talented.
Awesome.
David Williams, we've got other, Sherry, of course.
Anyway, that.
I haven't been
Yes?
around yet. Could you say something about your media?
Okay, yes, that's where I was going with that, as a matter of fact. There, one of the things that I'm really into the internal aspect of it, of painting, and I'm really into the nuts and bolts of doing it. And I got really sick about 20 years ago, and I couldn't use solvents anymore. I thought my life as an artist was over. I can't use oil paint. So I always hated acrylics, and I developed the ability to paint well with acrylics, which I love now. And I had a closet full of oil paints, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with all these oil paints? I can't use the solvents. So I started looking around on the internet and experimented with some different things and found different ways that people were painting with oils without solvents. And it was basically just scrubbing in the first layers and then working over it with thicker paint and to get the lean to fat thing. And that wasn't satisfactory. I tried it. And I eventually ended up with a non-solvent emulsion medium that I can use outside and control the setup time and everything of the paints. and it's a viable thing. We've got paintings that are 5 or 6 years old. They're doing great, and it's a
Your
really
egg temperas from 1970
Right.
are doing great.
that's good too.
And the Andrew Wyeth at the DMA has to be conserved frequently.
I know. I used to come in exactly. Perry Nichols taught me how to use oil paint, egg tempera, and he taught it to me correctly. So my egg temperas are good, and I used some of that information that he gave me. In fact, I met Perry Nichols through Ann Wunderlich. I was dating Betsy at the time, and anyhow, it's a long time ago. And she introduced me to Perry Nichols and said, "This guy is a great painter. I want you to learn everything you can from him about painting, but nothing else." So anyway, we had some adventures in that respect as well. But he taught me some wonderful stuff, and I've used that as the sort of the basis of my own development as an artist. And like Cheryl said, I basically if I needed something, I would either figure it out or go ask somebody. And that's the way I've educated myself over the years. And as I said before, basically to me, painting is almost, it's a byproduct of my life. It's not, in a sense, it's not really the point. It's just sort of, something that I do. It's an activity. It's a way for me to express the way that I feel about life and my experience of life itself. But it's not really, in a sense, it's not really all that important. I probably shouldn't tell you guys that in this setting, but it's really not. It's just paintings. It's just stuff on paper. And as much as I do love it, I just love making marks. I still do. It's amazing how a really good relationship with a person or an activity can span the years. And like Wanda and I, we've been married for 44 years. And it's awesome. I mean, I'm still crazy in love with her, and I'm still crazy in love with painting. So, and I didn't realize until recently how special it is to be in a situation where I love what I do, and I've loved what I have done for ever since I left Jesuit and before. So I always thought everybody was like that. I didn't really realize what a great gift that I've had.
One thing I've loved you tell us about Ireland and
Oh, okay.
that experience, because also Donald, is it Teskey?
Yeah.
Another artist that
Yeah.
you met, I was reading, and I think we have some people, Rachel Gaffney Smith, Ireland, some different people, and we've got 5 pieces in the show. But I wasn't sure what took you over to Ireland.
Actually, I was given a fellowship through the Ballinglen Foundation, and they gave us a cottage and set us up for a month. So we got to go to Ireland and stay for a month, and I'd go out every day. I also had a studio, which I never used because I was outside all the time. And I was really amazed at what Ireland was like, because I was used to the Disney Ireland, the leprechauns, and everybody's cheerful and drunk all the time and everything. And it was, but I got over there, and there were more pubs than churches, I gotta admit. But this is a spooky place. I mean, they're like these crows, the ravens on the chimney pots. They're like the old souls of all the Irish that have ever lived there, and they're all kind of watching you. And I was waiting for Alfred Hitchcock or Tippi Hedren to come out. It was really kind of spooky, and I was surprised at that. But it was a nice experience. I met some really nice people. Hung out with Donald Teskey, a wonderful Irish artist, and they have 6 or 7 artists there together when you go for when you become a fellow, I guess is what they say. So it was a nice experience. It was really good. And
It was County Mayo.
County Mayo, yeah.
What, Southwest
Ireland? I suppose.
I mean Northwest.
Northwest, yeah. And it's kind of it's their version of the back country, So it's relatively unpopulated, but it's really nice because you can walk the fields there and go through different farmers' lands and hop fences and go from here to here to here, and nobody bothers you. They just wave or whatever. And I've had guns pulled on me in Texas. I mean, literally, I've been held at rifle point out painting outside. So it's a little different environment there. Yes, ma'am.
One of your paintings, I know, was below the Cave of Fields.
Uh-huh.
Do they know that the historical significance of that area?
Probably not. It's an ancient site where they've excavated the bog, and found all these poles
The
and.
field's Neolithic site in the world, and it's the first field system on record in history in the world.
It's fascinating. It's really.
They've discovered all the fields underneath that,
Mhm.
how the field system for farming was set up. It's the oldest one in the world.
Wow.
You
Yes.
can visit it all. The Mayo, I think it's breathtaking. Mayo and Sligo are my favorite parts.
It is. It's beautiful. The cliffs there are just awesome. And there was a place that we went called Downpatrick Head that I painted. I don't know if there's one here of it, but I did 3 or 4 or 5. No. Well, that's
really
not quite
see
it. You can see it off in the distance in that one.
It's in the case.
In the case,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, and then there's another.
But anyhow, we drove out there for the first time, and I said, Wanda, I don't know what happened here, but something bad happened here. This is something's really wrong. And we found out later that there's a sinkhole there, and a bunch of the Irish rebels or something were. Do you know that story?
Many of them.
Yeah, they were hiding from the Brits, and they all drowned. It was horrible. And in fact, it's relating. I'm sorry. Well, anyways, and no, they're still mad about it. That's another thing I noticed about the Irish is I was talking about. It's like it happened yesterday. You go to a pub and they're all singing these fighting songs, like, yeah. Not part of it. Where? Not all of it. Okay, wherever I was, I don't know the pub I was at. But anyhow, and I've noticed that talking about being connected with the land when you paint, and there's the aspect of sitting there for so long still, which is an unusual thing. Animals don't know what to make of you, because I've had deer walk up, within 3 or 4 feet of me, because I was sitting so still and the wind was coming from them, and they smell bad. I didn't know that about deer. But anyhow, and you also pick up on the vibe of a place. And I was at there's a guy named Tommy. The guy has the ranch out in
Mormon.
Tommy Mormon. Yes, really nice guy. I went out and he was showing me around his ranch. And I said, "Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful." And we got over to this one place, and he said, "There's some glyphs on the wall, and the Indians used to do stuff here. We don't know what." And I said, "I'm not getting out of the car." And he said, "Well, why not?" I said, "I don't know, man. This place creeps me the hell out. I'm not getting out of the car." And he said, "I feel that way about it too." And I don't know what they did, but there's just something about it. I didn't paint that place. I don't ever want to paint that place. So it's a really interesting way to engage in life in all sorts of different levels. The time involved of being in a place and being quiet, and then the technical aspect and the challenges in that way of just drawing. I don't know if you've ever tried to draw anything. Drawing is not easy. It's tough. I mean, I've been doing it ever since I was a little kid, and I practice every day. I spend about an hour every morning just drawing. And it's that's something I don't understand about. I went to an art school with my friend who teaches at the college near there, and the guys were wanting to go home. They had a model out, and we were all drawing, and they said, "I want to go home." I said, "You guys are a bunch of," well, I can't say that word right here, but anyhow, and I said, "What about the musicians in the hall down there? They're down there practicing for hours every day to get proficient at their instrument, and you're not even going to practice for 2 or 3 hours to draw?" I said, "I don't understand that." But anyway, even with all the practice that I do, it's still really challenging to get out, especially out in the middle of nowhere, and to confront the incredible variety of, and what's the word? Just the immensity of what's happening. It's like the internet. So it's not that there isn't enough information on the internet. It's just there's too much. You just look at it, and you have to find a way to focus and filter and all that. So anyway, that's the from the internal aspect of it to the nuts and bolts of it. I just love the whole thing. It's just so beautiful, and it's so beautiful to be here with you guys and to be in a place where people appreciate painting enough to do something like this. And also, I believe Father LeBlanc was the one that started the museum. Is that correct? He's an amazing guy. I mean, he's just such a loving, caring person. He's set this up for generations to come to enjoy. And I guess really every Jesuit that I've met has had that kind of personality. Father Revoir, SJSJ, was a good mentor for me. And Father Schott was amazing. I can remember he gave me his rosary when I was at Grand Coteau with him. We had a beautiful visit. And I saw him not too long ago. I need to get back out there, but he's still out at Grand Coteau. And you know, what other high school could you go to and say, I'm still friends with that guy? He's 93 or 94 years old. He's still my friend. And that's how I feel about Jesuit. Somebody take this, please.
Thank you so much. Anyone have
Any
questions?
Yeah,
Any
questions, yeah.
from the audience?
Yes,
Right?
Bob, do you ever work with photography or something like that, interact with engineers?
Sometimes, sure. I take photographs when I'm out working, and when I finish something, I'll take a photograph and send it to Wanda. And I do some of that, but I don't do it really, you know, as a way of playing with images.
I recall that your house used to rear project.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. Sure, I don't do that anymore. I decided that I
It was the technique you used then. It was different.
Don, last time I saw Don, I think we were boxing or something.
It was good boxing.
It was good boxing. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar
No, no.
with the work. I love all this. It's amazing. I see the self-portrait, which is incredible seeing you in real life. But how frequently? Is this the only person you've drawn? How frequently
no,
do you
An eye for incomplete.
Yeah, no. She was asking about whether I do people sometimes, and yes, I do. I worked for about 1.5 years with a model that I had coming in, and I did some large nudes, and actually I started off doing people. That was what I started doing. It was not really portraits, but sort of character studies of people. And I guess honestly that it's a little more difficult for me to work with people than it is with landscape, because the scheduling and people seem to have so little time. And but I do a thing called paint a saint. And I used to do it every Sunday. I would paint somebody that I admired, or do a drawing. And so I had drawings of all sorts of people: Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, just bunches of people. And so I was doing that. And I like to keep my hand in that, because there's really nothing more difficult or demanding than a portrait. And so I still do that.
Bob, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Please get more food and drink, and I don't know if the students are going to start back up or not. Okay, thanks so much.